Hey guys, Korbid Thompson here for another edition of our Mets Rant here on the King James Radio Network on our YouTube page. This is exclusively on our YouTube page. It's been a while since I've done one. I wanted to do one, the previous weekend when the Mets got swept in Philadelphia after they basically blew every game via the bullpen. But I decided instead of doing all of that and wasting my vocal cords on that, I just decided to do kind of a cumulative thing here as we have now reached the All-Star break. And of course, at the time of this, the All-Star game has come and gone. And Pete Alonso, of course, making a nice showing, winning the home run derby and getting a hit to drive in 2 runs in the All-Star game. So, with that being said, Pete Alonso right now the talk of the town as far as the Mets are concerned. But in terms of this particular Mets rant, I don't know, there's probably going to be a rant in here somewhere. But as far as what will the Mets do in the second half and what should they do? Those will be my 2 points today. And I'll just go position by position here as far as the starters go. I won't spend a lot of time on the bench, if any. But just position by position as far as the starting 8 are concerned. The pitching rotation and all that, that's a whole nother matter. But just as far as the starting 8, what should they do and what will they do? Now, I'll start with what I think they should do. And listen, the Mets the season's toast. Let's be honest. This season is toast, okay? There's really no coming back for the Mets this year. I mean, unless they go on one of those miraculous 1969 type of runs, which I don't know about you guys, but I don't, particularly see happening. So with that being said, I look at the standings, and I have them in front of me. I look at the standings right now, and the Mets are, I'm looking at 13 and a half games out of first place in the National League East. Do I even want to? The wild card. Let's see. They are actually 7 games out of the wild card, and only one team is worse than them, and that would be the Marlins. But 7 games out of the wild card, 13 and a half out of the division, at 40 and 50. So that's 90 games, 72 games left to go. They've got to. Can they make up 7 games in 72 games? Yeah. Listen, the Mets know firsthand, the Phillies made up 7 games in 17 days. So, if you go back, over 10 years ago. So, with that being said, what I think they should do. I'll start with first base. Pete Alonso is your first baseman. Enough said. We'll move on to second base. Robbie Cano is your second baseman. You're stuck there, So the Mets traded for him and his contract. They're stuck with him. There's something, and that's why I've never been a fan of no trade clauses in contracts. And I'm sure he's got one because they all do now. I'm sure without even looking it up, I'm sure he's got one. But with that being said, I've never been a fan of no trade clauses in contracts. But even if he doesn't, you're stuck with him. You're not really going to be able to trade him anywhere. What is it, 4 years left at age 36? So there's that. So whether we like it or not, Robbie Cano is the second baseman. Now, maybe you could move him to third base and put Jeff McNeil there if you wanted to, but good luck in getting him to go for that. Shortstop, Ahmed Rosario. I said all along that I think Rosario will be okay, an okay major league player. I didn't think he'd be great. He's not necessarily going to be Cal Ripken, but I don't think he's going to be Mike Bordick either. I think he'll be okay. And this whole idea of moving him to center field, to me, is, well, to put it nicely, is stupid. Because you've already got 3 outfielders playing out of position. You've already got Dom Smith playing out of position. You've got Michael Conforto, even though he's an outfielder, he's still playing out of position. Only the Mets can find a way to do that. He's still playing out of position. And you got Jeff McNeil out there who's playing out of position. So you already got 3 guys playing out of position. Now you want to put a 4th guy out there out of position. Makes no sense. None. Zero. And to do what? To play a Danny Echeverria at short? If Echeverria was so great, and don't get me wrong, he's done a good job, in general, but if he was so great, he'd be in high demand to be on someone else's team as a starter. So, that being said, I'd leave Rosario where he is. Now I talked about what the Mets should do and what what they will do. I'm just talking about what they should do. I think you leave Rosario where he is. And if you want to explore moving him to center field in the offseason, which I still think would be a mistake, but if you want to move him to center field in the offseason, do that. Okay? Don't pull him from shortstop in the middle of the season and try to put him in the outfield on the fly. We've learned in the past with guys like Jose Reyes, guys like that does not, Todd Hundley, it doesn't work. Mike Piazza, moving him to first base, it doesn't work. If you don't learn from your history, you're doomed to repeat it. And that falls on the Wilpons. But anyway, I don't want to talk about the Wilpons. I don't want to talk about it. I made my statement on the Wilpons. Like I said, I don't think the Wilpons are cheap. I just think they're incompetent. But anyway, third base. Now, this is where Jed Lowry was supposed to be your third baseman, but it doesn't even look like he's going to play this year. Now, that's a black eye on Brody Van Wagenen. There's a few black eyes on Brody Van Wagenen, but that's one of them. And so, with that being said, it's going to be interesting. Lowry's probably not, at this rate, it doesn't look like he's playing this year, Lowry. So, if you decide to if you're somehow able to jettison Lowry and get him off the team, get him off, trade him or whatever, and get him off the pair. I think he's got a 2-year contract, so he has another year. So if you could somehow unload that, good luck because he hasn't played, so I don't know who would want to trade for him. But if you could somehow unload that deal, put McNeil at third base, you trade Frazier. You'd have to trade Frazier. So trade Frazier, try to get a mid-level prospect or something for him, put McNeil at third base, and roll from there. Now, left field. Trade Dominic Smith. He's done a good job for you, which means his trade value should be somewhat decent because he's a first baseman by trade, and it's not going to, that's not going to come to fruition with the Mets, not with Pete Alonso at first base, unless something career-ending happens to Alonso, knock on wood, right? But trade Dominic Smith, okay? It would be just like the Mets if something happened to Alonso and you traded Smith and then you got no first baseman. That would be a typical Met move. But still, trade Dom, okay? Trade him to a team that needs a first baseman. Get something back and get mid-level, whatever. Get something back for him. And put J.D. Davis in left field for the rest of this year. And then you actually go out and look for an outfielder. A novel concept for Brody. Look for an outfielder. Somebody that's actually played the outfield before. So you start there. Center field, move Conforto out of center field. Put him back in right field. I know this won't be the most popular decision, but play Juan Lagares in center because he's the only true center fielder you've got. He's the only one that can actually play the position with some competency on a consistent level. So I understand Lagares is hitting $180. I get it. But, you're not going anywhere this season anyway. So, play Lagares, J.D. Davis in left the rest of this year. Play Juan Lagares in center the rest of this year. Play Michael Conforto in right. At least then you'll have a somewhat decent outfield. And you go from there. Wilson Ramos. Yes, he's a double play machine. He can't run. Can't block. Can't block a pitch. And that's why your top 2 pitchers want to pitch to someone else. That is a problem, by the way. When your top 2 pitchers request a different catcher, that's a problem. So that's got to be straightened out. And I don't know that Mickey Callaway and Phil Regan are the guys to straighten that out. But if you can trade Ramos and you make Nido the everyday catcher the rest of the year, I don't have an issue with that. Like I said, you're going nowhere anyway. So I don't have an issue with that. So if you want to trade Ramos, fine. If you don't, that's fine too. At this point, that's indifferent to me as far as this year is concerned. We'll discuss catching options in the offseason as far as that goes. But that's the starting 8 and what I think the Mets should do. What I think they will do, I think they're going to keep doing what they're doing. You're thinking that there's nothing wrong. I don't think they're going to make any drastic changes. I don't think they're going to put Rosario in the outfield until maybe September. Maybe September when they're truly out of it. They're out of it now, but when they're truly out of it in September, then I think you could see a move to Rosario, putting Rosario in the outfield. I think it'll be a big mistake, but I think that's what they'll do. I'm talking about now what I think the Mets will do. So I think you'll see that. I think you'll see Robbie Cano. I think eventually they will, if he continues to struggle, they will take him out of the 3 spot. They did hit him 5th once last week, but I think that they will take him out of the 3 spot eventually, whether it be in August or eventually, if he continues to struggle. I do think they will try to trade, Todd Frazier. I think they will listen to offers for Noah Syndergaard and Zach Wheeler. I think they'll at least listen. I don't know if they'll pull the trigger on anything, but I think they'll listen to offers for Syndergaard and Wheeler and Matz and Steven Matz. Definitely Jason Vargas. So I think any of those 4 guys are up for discussion. I think Jacob deGrom is not. Yankee fans for the last 2 years have obsessed with getting Jacob deGrom, and they are, under the delusion that for some reason the Mets want to trade deGrom for whatever, for a bag of dirty baseballs or whatever. But anyway, anybody in the bullpen can be up for grabs. They probably will hold on to Diaz. So I don't think Edwin Diaz is going anywhere. I think they're going to try their best to fix Diaz. And as far as Seth Lugo and Rob Gazelman go, I think they'll make it to the end of the year. And I think whether Mickey is the manager next year, whether there's a new manager next year, I think either way, they're going to try to find a role for those 2 guys come next year. But that's just a brief kind of synopsis of what I think the Mets should do and what they will do. Oh, the outfield. I think with the outfield, I talked about what they should do. What I think the Mets will do, I think they will go ahead and keep Dominic Smith in left, because I don't think they see any reason to move him at this point. Although, like I said, I think they'll keep him in left. I think they'll keep Conforto in center. And you may see Juan Lagares sprinkled in here or there as he's been. And in right, they're going to keep putting, Jeff McNeil and the ball boy out there to see if they can throw something on the wall and make it stick. You don't want McNeil to necessarily be a Daniel Murphy. You don't want him to have 5 different positions. You want Jeff McNeil to be Jeff McNeil. You don't need him to be Daniel Murphy. So anyway, that's what I think the Mets will do. As far as Joe Girardi goes, I've said before on these that I don't think he's coming, because he would be crazy to come with this hot mess of a roster right now as presently constituted. He'd be crazy to come here. So unless they're going to do some drastic changes with the roster, and unless they're giving Girardi the control that he would want, he ain't coming. He ain't coming. So anyway, that's my Mets. That's my Mets rant for this week. So of course, the Mets get back in action this week, and we'll see if they go worse than 10 games under 500 or better. But I think the season as a whole is pretty much done. July 11th, season's pretty much done. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Goodbye. Godspeed. Talk to you again soon on our next Mets rant, which I'm sure there will be one. But we'll talk to you then. Bye-bye.